I still remember the taste of cold coffee and humiliation. At the family meeting, one of those orchestrated Walker traditions, where we were all expected to smile in pressed shirts and pretend we were clothes, my father looked straight at me and said, "You should be ashamed. Don't call that a career, it's filthy." Everyone froze. He wasn't done. "And if you can't find something respectable to do with your life, then get out of my house." I looked around the room, hoping someone would speak up. My mother avoided my gaze. My sister Amanda smirked. No one stopped me as I stood, picked up my camera bag, and walked out of the home I grew up in. That was 5 months ago. Yesterday, my phone rang. It was my father again. Only this time, he wasn't calling to insult me. He was calling to ask for $100,000. To save Amanda. Growing up, I was the kid with grass-stained jeans and a second-hand Polaroid in my hand. While Amanda played piano in recitals and charmed relatives with her flawless grades, I crouched in backyards, capturing ladybugs on leaves and squirrels, mid-leap. I didn't dream of corporate ladders or Wall Street portfolios. I dreamed of silence, of jungles and wild things, and of telling stories without using words. By the time I was 16, I had built a small following on Flickr, and even sold a photo to a conservation nonprofit for $200. I was over the moon. My dad just said, "That's beer money, don't get carried away." Still, I worked hard. I applied to Columbia's visual documentary program and got a partial scholarship. I was ready to commit to real training, to go professional not for fame, but for craft. But when I brought it up at dinner, I remember how his face changed. "You want to throw away your life for mud and fleas?" he said. "You think crouching in swamps with a camera is a future? Absolutely not." I asked if he could help with the housing costs, since the scholarship covered tuition. He didn't even blink. "You picked the dirt. Live in it." So I packed up at 19, moved into a shoebox studio in Queens, and got 2 jobs, waitress by night, intern photographer by day. My hands always smelled like burnt coffee or dog fur. It was hard, but I made it through. There were years I didn't come home for holidays. When I did, I kept my camera tucked away and my stories small. My mother said, "It's best not to provoke your father." Amanda laughed once and said, "Still chasing squirrels, Em?" I thought if I just stayed quiet, kept showing up with a smile and a bottle of wine, maybe they'd see me. Maybe they'd realize success didn't always come with a business suit. But they never asked. Until they needed something. The studio wasn't much, just one tall window, peeling paint, and enough room for a desk, a mattress, and a tripod. But it was mine. It smelled like eucalyptus and dog shampoo from the rescue center I volunteered at on weekends. That's where I got my first real shot. One of the senior vets saw me snapping photos of a pit bull cuddling a kitten. She asked for copies for their website. The shelter posted them. The next week, I had 4 emails from pet food brands and grooming startups. No one offered riches, but they offered a chance. That's how it began. Product photography for small businesses, then blog features, then travel invites, to wildlife sanctuaries and eco-parks. I didn't have an agent, just a reliable eye, consistency, and kind people who passed along my name. Eventually, I launched a YouTube channel, Untamed Light, mostly tutorials and behind-the-scenes clips from the field. It was raw, honest, sometimes muddy, often funny. People liked it. 6 months in, a video showing how I rescued a trapped deer went viral. That brought national attention. Wildlife magazines reached out, brands asked to sponsor. My subscriber count hit 500,000. Then 1 million. I still lived modestly, same mattress, same coffee maker from college, but the income was steady. I opened a photo workshop in Vermont, teaching outdoor wildlife photography every summer. It sold out in days. I hired 2 assistants, and together we built something solid. Still, I never said a word to my family. When I visited for Thanksgiving that year, Amanda talked about her new condo downtown. My father praised her for getting a real career in corporate law. I didn't mention that National Geographic had just featured one of my spreads. I didn't mention I'd just signed a book deal. I just nodded, smiled, passed the cranberry sauce. That night, I remember staring at the guest room ceiling and thinking, you could win an award, and they'd still call it a hobby. I thought about sending Dad the article. I didn't. I had learned to protect my peace by staying quiet. And then came the family meeting. The one where silence finally shattered. It was supposed to be a celebration. That's what the message said. Mom texted a week prior. Family meeting this Sunday, everyone's expected. Big announcement. I knew better than to expect warmth, but I still brought something. A framed photo I had taken in Tanzania lioness mid-leap, catching the last light of day in her amber eyes. I thought maybe, just maybe, it would be enough to start a different kind of conversation. I was wrong. The house looked the same. Symmetrical hedges, white pillars, cold. Amanda was already there, her nails freshly done, sipping something pink in a tall glass. She wore that casual superiority like perfume subtle but choking. Dad stood by the fireplace, swirling whiskey in his glass like he was conducting a business pitch. Mom adjusted the cheese board with surgical precision. I felt like an intruder in a home I once knew. Then it began. Everyone, let's gather in the living room, Dad said, voice booming. I sat near the edge of the couch, my photo still wrapped in brown paper on my lap. Amanda looked smug. Mom was already teary-eyed and I didn't yet know why. Dad cleared his throat, then grinned. We're proud to announce that Amanda will be launching her own real estate development firm, he said. And to support this next chapter, we'll be transferring a substantial investment from the family account into her new venture. Everyone clapped. Except me. I looked around. No one even glanced in my direction. I raised my hand slightly, like a kid in school. Dad narrowed his eyes. Yes, Emily? I took a breath. Does this include any support for me? His smile vanished. You? He scoffed. Emily, you've chosen your path. Dirt, bugs, barking dogs. That's not a business. That's a hobby at best, filthy at worst. The room fell still. He stood taller. I've told you before, if you want to make a life out of crawling in the mud, don't expect this family to finance it. I stared at him, stunned. The silence vibrated in my ears. Then I saw Amanda smirk. I reached down, unwrapped the frame, and held it out. This photo is being featured in next month's National Geographic. I thought you might want to put it in your office. He didn't take it. Didn't even look. Take that out of my house, he said coldly. And while you're at it, pack your things. I want you gone tonight. I blinked. Are you serious? Deadly. My mother said nothing. Amanda sipped her drink. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood, walked upstairs, and gathered the few things I had left in that house. Before I left, I placed the lioness photo on the entryway table and walked out. Again. But this time, it was final. The train ride back to Vermont was silent, except for the soft rhythm of steel on steel and the occasional ping of a message I didn't open. I sat by the window with my knees pulled close, forehead leaning against the glass. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because it hurt in a way that went beyond tears. The kind of pain that feels like resignation, like confirmation of something you've known for years but prayed wasn't true. When I unlocked my apartment, the first thing I did was drop my bag and head straight for the dark room. I turned off the lights, turned on the red, and stood in silence. Inside that tiny space that always smelled like vinegar and dust, I felt safe. I printed a photo I'd been putting off for weeks, an owl in flight, sharp wings against blurred trees. It dried on the line, like truth slowly surfacing. The next day, I went back to work. The fall workshop was in full swing, and I had 6 students in puffy coats standing knee-deep in forest dew by 6 a.m., trying to catch the light through yellow maple leaves. We laughed, we huddled for warmth, we waited for birds that never came. It was simple, it was honest, it was mine. At night, I edited photos, uploaded tutorials, replied to comments, and answered sponsorship emails I'd once only dreamed of. One company even offered me a branded camera line. I never mentioned it to my family. For weeks, I heard nothing from them. No, sorry, no, are you okay? Not even a passive-aggressive voicemail from my mother. I started to sleep better. One night, I stood in my kitchen with a glass of wine, watching the first snow fall quietly over the backyard. I remember whispering, more to myself than to the dark, "This piece, it's expensive, but it's worth every penny." Then I turned off my phone. I needed distance not just from the house I left, but from the parts of me that still sought permission to belong to it. That winter, Untamed Light passed 1 million subscribers. I didn't celebrate, but I did order myself a cake, chocolate ganache, just because. I ate it alone and smiled between bites. Because for once, I wasn't waiting for anyone else to clap. It came on a Tuesday. I had just finished filming a segment on winter wildlife tracking and was pouring hot cider into a chipped mug when my phone buzzed. Dad. His name on the screen stopped my breath for a moment. I let it ring until it almost ended. Then, against my better judgment, I picked up. "Emily?" he said. No hello, no warmth. His voice was thinner than usual, controlled, but trembling at the edges. "Yes?" There was a pause, just breathing. Then, "We need your help." I leaned against the counter. "I figured. It's your sister, Amanda. She's in trouble." "Of course." She started a business venture, real estate flips. Her partner bailed, and now she's stuck with 3 properties, 2 lawsuits, and a loan payment due by the end of the month. $100,000. The silence between us widened like a chasm. "She's going to lose everything," he added, "and the family's name, our reputation." I let the words sit. Finally, I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" He exhaled, like he had rehearsed the answer. "Because you're doing well. I saw your videos. Your channel. The studio. You've made something for yourself. We're proud." I laughed, short and sharp. "You called my work filthy and threw me out of your house. That was 5 months ago." He was quiet again. "And now, I'm suddenly a daughter again because I have something you need?" "Don't be like this, Emily," he snapped, old impatience leaking back in. "Amanda's your sister." "And I'm your daughter," I shot back. "But that didn't matter when you humiliated me in front of the entire family, when you told me to leave with nothing." His voice dropped. "This is not the time to relive the past." "No," I said calmly. "It's the time you live with it." He tried again. "She's your blood." "So am I," I replied. Then came the line that sealed it. "Are you really going to let your own sister drown just because your feelings were hurt?" I almost smiled. "No," I said. "I'm going to let her drown because she's in a boat you built, and you were both happy to sail off without me." "Emily." I cut him off. "You made it clear I don't belong in that family, so don't call me when it needs saving." I hung up. Then, I turned off my phone. This time, the silence that followed didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like freedom. It was still dark when the knock came sharp, insistent, and far too early. I checked the clock. 6:47 a.m. No one ever came to the studio that early, not even deliveries. I opened the curtain a sliver and froze. 3 figures stood outside. My father, my mother, Amanda. I didn't move. Another knock. This time softer, almost hesitant. I opened the door only halfway, blocking the entrance with my body. "Why are you here?" Amanda stepped forward first, her voice brittle. "Emily, please, just hear us out." She looked different. Hollowed. Her eyes were rimmed red, and she clutched her purse like it was the last thing tethering her to the ground. Behind her, Dad stood stiff, hands behind his back like a soldier. Mom looked like she hadn't slept. I didn't budge. We're desperate," Mom said, her voice cracking. "Your sister is being sued. The banks want their money. If we don't pay soon." "You'll lose everything?" I finished. I heard. Amanda wiped at her nose. I messed up, okay? I know I did. But I didn't think it would fall apart this fast. I thought I could handle it. I raised an eyebrow. Like you thought you could handle mocking me at every holiday for 10 years? She flinched. I didn't mean. But you did. Every joke, every smirk, every time you dismissed my work like it was dirt on your heels, you meant it. And now you need me? Dad finally spoke. Emily, enough. This isn't about past offenses. This is about family. You don't abandon blood. I stared at him. You did. His jaw clenched. You abandoned me in front of a room full of people, I said quietly, and kicked me out for choosing a path you didn't approve of. Now you're on my doorstep because the golden daughter failed. I'm still your sister, Amanda said, voice cracking. And I'm sorry. The words hung there. For a moment, I almost softened. But then, I remembered standing in that living room 5 months ago, holding out a framed photo my father refused to touch. I remembered Amanda sipping her cocktail, smiling as I was told to leave. I forgave you all a long time ago, I said, but forgiveness doesn't mean rescue. Amanda's lower lip trembled. You have the money. This wouldn't even dent your income. And that's exactly why I'm not giving it to you, I replied. Because to you, I'm not a sister. I'm a checkbook. No, Mom whispered. You're our daughter. Only when it's convenient, I cut in. They stood there in the morning cold, desperation clinging to them like damp clothes. I felt the tears sting but didn't let them fall. I wish things were different, I said. But they're not. Then I stepped back and said, clear and final. If you're looking for a savior, ask the daughter you chose. And I closed the door. I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I boiled a kettle, I poured a cup of tea, and I stood by the window watching their car disappear down the snowy road. There was no joy in it. No vengeance. Just peace. And that, for the first time, felt like power. 3 days passed. I thought it was over, that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally understand no meant no. Then my inbox exploded. The subject lines were brutal. Why did you abandon your family? You're a monster. Your sister deserved better. I blinked at the flood of angry emails and DMs. On my studio's Instagram, dozens of comments appeared beneath a photo of a rescued fox. Hope the fox knows you're heartless. You make money from animals but ignore your own blood. Fake nature, girl. Confused, I clicked a message from a former workshop student. Attached was a screenshot. Amanda's post. On Facebook. On LinkedIn. On Reddit. Public. Tagged. Hashtagged. The caption read like a slow-burning dagger. It's painful to share this, but I'm out of options. My sister Emily, who's become a successful content creator, refused to help when our family was in crisis. She has the means to help. We begged. We cried. She shut the door in our faces. Literally. I understand we made mistakes, but family doesn't turn away when one of their own is drowning. I never imagined she'd choose pride over compassion. I still love her, but I don't know who she is anymore. I stared at the words, breath caught between disbelief and something darker. It wasn't just the post. It was the intent. She hadn't just aired dirty laundry. She'd rewritten the story painting me as the cold-hearted villain, the girl who turned her back for money, while she played the weeping, ruined sister who just wanted love. And the internet? Ate it up. My studio lost sponsors overnight. One photography brand emailed to pause collaborations due to recent reputation risks. 3 clients canceled their winter wildlife sessions. My assistant, Mia, asked if everything was okay. I couldn't speak. I just nodded and went back to the darkroom, except, this time, there was no peace. That night, I sat with my lawyer, Raj, across a table at a quiet cafe. He scrolled through screenshots, headlines, shares, revenue charts. After half an hour of silence, he looked up. Emily, this is defamation. Flat out. Measurable business loss. Emotional distress. Reputational damage. I said nothing. I'm not saying you have to go to court, but you have every legal right to. I pressed my palms against the table. She's my sister. He leaned in. She was, until she made you a target to save herself. I looked away. Outside, snow was beginning to fall. I remembered Amanda's smirk at the family meeting, her silence when I was thrown out, her eyes sharp when she came begging, and now this. It wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated. She wanted me to pay one way or another. I inhaled slowly and looked Raj in the eye. Draft the lawsuit. He didn't smile, just nodded. We'll file on Monday. The hearing took place 6 weeks later. The courtroom wasn't dramatic like on TV, no shouting, no gasps. Just polished floors, murmured voices, and fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little washed out. Amanda sat across from me in a navy suit, hair neatly tied back, eyes fixed on the desk like it might offer her an escape route. I didn't look at her much. I didn't need to. Raj walked the judge through every detail, screenshots of Amanda's posts, client cancellations, terminated contracts, and even analytics from my YouTube channel showing the steep dip in revenue. He didn't embellish. He didn't need to. The truth was loud enough. Amanda's defense was weak. Emotional expression, her lawyer called it. A personal plea, not malicious intent. But the court didn't buy it. Because intent isn't louder than impact. And impact? Mine was measurable, traceable, costly. In the end, the ruling came clear and cold. Amanda would pay $147,000 in damages and issue a formal public retraction across all platforms. No room for misunderstandings, no excuses. She didn't cry. Neither did I. Outside, as people filtered from the building, I paused on the steps. Raj asked if I wanted a statement prepared. I shook my head. No need, I said. The silence will speak louder. That night, I didn't celebrate. Instead, I walked the forest trail behind my studio alone, snow crunching under my boots, breath rising in clouds. There was no vindication in my chest. No fire. No thrill. Just something clean, like air after a storm. The next morning, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real letter, handwritten. It was from my mother. I wish things had gone differently. I don't know how to fix this. Your father is still furious. Amanda has moved back in with us. There's silence in every room. I want to believe there's still something left of this family to save. But I know it's not your job to do that anymore. I read it twice, then placed it in a drawer. Not out of anger, but out of peace. They drew the line first when they kicked me out. I just learned how to keep it. Some of you might think I'm cruel, that I should have let it go, that I should have picked up the phone, showed up, bailed them out. But here's what I've learned. Family is not a license to abuse. Love is not proof of weakness. And boundaries are not revenge. They are survival. They are reclamation. They are peace. So if you've ever been told your worth only shows when you're needed, if you've ever been seen only as a resource, not as a person, let me be the one to tell you, you are not a bad daughter for saying no. You are not a villain for choosing peace over pain. You're just done bleeding for people who only show up when they smell money. And sometimes, that's the most loving thing you can do. For yourself.